All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're live. Welcome back to another episode of Jordan Jitsu Doesn't Work. We had a special Memorial Day episode going on today. Happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. Obviously, everybody's celebrating, but thinking about those who have lost their lives fighting for our country and just family members that are no longer with us. So that's what we celebrate today. We got a special episode today. We're bringing on the front man of BJJ World TV, popular BJJ news company. Outlet. So we've got the man Freddy. So we're gonna bring him on. Freddy, how we doing, man?
What's up, Jordan, bro? How's it going?
Very good. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just here, getting used to this, like being locked down stuff. So
yeah, that was
over soon.
That was kind of like the first thing I was going to ask you about is how has it affected the way that you operate, your businesses and stuff like that. Obviously, I think a lot of your work is probably from home, but I'm just curious to hear how it's affected you.
Yeah, man. Most of it is definitely from home. I would say like 80% of everything I do is from home. The only thing that has affected, I would say, is like I can't go out to events and cover them. Obviously we missed a whole bunch of jiu-jitsu events that got canceled because of the virus, and I also missed out on. We had just come off tour with Craig Jones, and we're going to be doing more of that. And of course, the virus kicked in, and I wasn't able to do that, but. For the most part, I'm very lucky to be able to work from home and still have stuff to put out. But it's definitely affected me in the way that like I've had to find new ways to make jiu-jitsu content that's not so like heavily involved in like tournaments and actual physical events, just because we don't have that at the time right now.
Yeah, and that kind of like branches off of something I was going to ask you. Is just I've noticed that you're really creative in the way that you're able to cover so many events across the country. Is it just you running things at BJJ World TV, or do you have other people around the country, like photographers and stuff, that are helping you gather interviews and things like that?
So for the most part, I do most of the work as far as like all the content that goes into Instagram and YouTube and as far as covering events wise, like anything that's here on the West Coast or on this part of the U.S., it's me because I'm here in Los Angeles. And then anything that's in the East Coast, it's my brother who goes out there and like films those events and stuff. My brother lives in Miami, Florida, which is where we're originally from.
Oh, very nice. So he lives over on the other side of the country. So he covers like the Substars and like Jits King and stuff like that down in Florida.
Yeah, he was actually at the Substars event, this last Substars event, covering that with one of our friends, Jamie, who like helped him out doing the interviews and stuff. But yeah, anything that's happened on the East Coast, he'll go ahead and cover as far as live events goes.
Very nice, man. That's pretty cool that you're even spread across the country. You guys are able to work together to come together for that. That's interesting. That's something I was definitely interested in delving into because I kind of want to start to create a network like that where like people in the jiu-jitsu community are helping each other, using different photographers and video people and stuff all over the country. And that's kind of how we can grow this whole entire thing is, by banding together. I don't want to see any of the separation that there is. I know that the drama sells, but definitely banding together would be a lot more like positive for the community and allow us to get a lot more things out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was going to just kind of ask you in general, like the origins of how you got into media. Like, are you self-taught? Do you have a background in this kind of stuff? Is it something that you were interested in, maybe in another field before you got into jiu-jitsu? Just in general, how you got into the whole media side of things?
So like about 5 years ago, I owned a custom apparel company that I had been running for a couple of years. Running that kept me away from training, so eventually I decided to sell that just so I could figure out what else to do. I needed to be able to find something that I was passionate about and I could train at the same time. And just one day, me and my brother were in the backyard hanging out in South Florida, and we were watching YouTube videos of this channel called MMA World that they do like MMA news. And then right then and there, I was like, man, this is something that like would be awesome to do. It doesn't exist in the community right now. And then, from that day, it was just self-taught. Like, I mean, I had been making videos before, like I knew how to like edit video and shoot video, but like, as far as like jiu-jitsu like literally that day we started making like videos and stuff, and they actually started doing really well. And flash forward 5 years later, and like, here we are.
Nice, man. That's pretty cool. What's like your favorite area of media? Is it like taking photos, video? Do you like editing? writing things, just doing the social media interaction? What's your favorite area of that?
I think it's definitely a mixture of a couple of things. I enjoy shooting video more than anything. I like making like little movies. I've always done that in the past with the companies and just other things. Even when I would travel, I would just like enjoy making like little home movies. And then I also like meeting new people and hearing their story, you know, because something I've learned from just being jiu-jitsu, everybody who you train with is like such a crazy character. So getting to know people and seeing what they're about and like how they started, and I think that's super fascinating for me.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too for me, is like, because, you know, I put on events here in the Midwest and we bring guys from all over the country here to compete. And like, you know, as much as it would be great to bring out all like the top high level guys, like I'm interested in like finding about, you know, these interesting people that are kind of in the mid levels. And I think they're a lot more like down to earth people, and they don't have this inflated ego that like, you know, I'm really good at jiu-jitsu, so that means I'm really good at life or something. So that's something I've enjoyed is meeting people just from all across the country and from different walks of life that obviously all come together for one thing that we're passionate about, and that's jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you get into like just jiu-jitsu in general? Like, where did you start training? You're a purple belt now?
Yeah. I just got my purple belt this last August.
Nice.
I started training, man. It was like 2012. I started training in 2012. I was 2 years out of high school. I played baseball in high school. After that, I didn't really have anything to do. My friend one of my best friends was already training jiu-jitsu at that time. He had been training since like his sophomore year. And he was always like, hey bro, come out and train. And I was never really interested. And then one day he asked me for the gazillion time, and I'm so glad he did. Like, he never gave up. But that day I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. And I started training in Miami, Florida. I trained at this place for a month before I ended up moving to Tallahassee to go to school. And then I started training. I kept training over there. I trained at an Alliance school over there, got my blue belt over there. Before heading back down to Miami, trained at that original school that I trained at. And then when I moved out here, I started training at the Renzo Gracie here in Los Angeles.
Nice. And have you done like any kind of competing along your jiu-jitsu journey?
Oh yeah. Literally a month into training in Tallahassee, I signed up for my first IBJJF tournament. Nice. Did a couple of those. More recently, I did the West Coast Trials here in, what was it, February 2019.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
And 145 then?
No, 66 kilo, which is like 170.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then I did Nogi Worlds this last December before the world ended, which is the last thing I was able to do.
Nice, man. I did want to get into that Craig Jones trip that you mentioned. Any good stories from there? Obviously, I won't make you walk me through it, day by day or anything like that. It was a pretty long trip, but any good stories that came out of that?
Man, just being around a guy like Craig, man, just such a funny guy. So much banter, like at every corner of the trip. Like you couldn't do anything without him, literally just roasting you. And it's like a thing from like, that's how they are in Australia. It's like they roast their best friends, and like Craig Jones looks like such a super sweet guy. When you talk to him, you do an interview, he doesn't seem like he has a bad bone in his body. But once you're his friend, dude, no mercy. He's roasting you at any second. So man, we just had a lot of laughs on that trip, man. There was not a dull moment. And him and Isaac Michelle, like his up and coming purple belt from Australia, it couldn't have been a better group of guys. Alongside Hector from Legwalker. We were just like right away we got really close, and it was just a good time, man. Good time, a lot of laughs, a lot of good training sessions with these guys. But yeah, I would say like just the amount of laughing on this tour was just insane. There was like never a dull moment with these guys.
Yeah, and that went like pretty much all over the whole. I mean, it wasn't just the West Coast; it was basically like all over, like the mid. Or I guess I don't even remember, where all did you guys go?
So we did all up the Northwest, and then we got to, I think we got like Salt Lake City. We hit Arizona, a couple of states in there, and then we ended up in Austin, Texas. The tour was originally supposed to go all the way through was that March? It was supposed to go all the way through March and end like towards the end of March, and it would have ended up in the East Coast. But Craig had some visa issues at the time, so we decided to end the trip short, and like we ended up March. The first week of March is when it ended, and it ended up working out because literally the week after that, like everything shut down. So like even if Craig didn't have those visa issues, we would have had to have plans to cancel the tour at some point.
Yeah. What was your favorite city along that?
Man, that's tough, but I would say Austin, Texas, was one of my favorites. Amazing food, amazing training. Portland was amazing, really fun. Albuquerque was surprisingly fun, and I would say Salt Lake City was just like really beautiful. But I mean, every stop had like something really cool and intricate about it. It was a really awesome trip.
Yeah, I love Austin. I've been down there a couple times. I did the Onnit Invitational, and then just went down there for a trip this past year. But that's one place I could see myself leaving here to move to. Austin's an awesome place. There's a lot going on there, and I just like the vibe of the city.
Dude, such an awesome place. Like we went out a couple nights, and just like the vibe was great, and everybody there, like they'll be like, yeah, people from California are like moving to Austin. Like Austin's gonna be like the next like hot spot. I can see why, man. Like such an awesome little city.
Yeah, and was that the 10th Planet that you guys were there? Is that where you guys were?
Yeah, that was actually the last stop on the tour. We were there for a whole week, but yeah, that 10th Planet Austin was the last show for the trip.
And are they still linked in with the Onnit Academy, or are they separate now? Because when I was down there, they were together, but it looks like they might be a little separate now.
I don't know the full details. I talked to Curtis a little. We had dinner with Curtis, and he mentioned that they definitely moved across the street. I definitely don't think they are together, but I could be wrong. I don't know the exact details of that.
Yeah, I just noticed because they used to put on like the Onnit like World Open, and now they're calling it like the 10th Planet ATX World Open. So I was wondering.
Yeah. We had talked a little bit about it, and he had mentioned some stuff. He was like, we're kind of doing our own thing, but I don't know like the full extent of like how much they're doing their thing. But they did move facilities. Like there is just an Onnit facility across the street, and then now it's like there's its own jiu-jitsu gym like across the street.
Gotcha. Did you get to check out that Onnit Academy at all while you were there?
Nah, man, I wish. I wish I could have, man. That's actually like would have been one of the coolest things to do. But no, we were just at their academy that whole week, like training and stuff.
Nice, man. Yeah, Curtis is a super good dude. He took like good care of me when I was down there for the event and everything, paid for all my food and like acai and shit when I was there at the academy eating. So high level of respect for that guy.
Yeah, man, he's a super cool dude, and the guys there at Austin, Texas are just absolutely killers, man. Like the whole week was just like rough rounds.
Yeah, I wish I would have gotten to spend more time actually training there. I was basically like competed, and then I was there for 2 days, and we just like checked out landmarks and things like that. And then we had to get out of there. But next time I'm there, I'm definitely going to try to get some training in.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Yeah. So outside of training, obviously a lot, you kind of have. If you work so much from home, it's kind of like there's that blurred line between work and home. What are some of the things that you do to relax and get yourself away from all the craziness of social media and media work?
Yeah, ironically enough, I'll go to train jiu-jitsu to get off of that like work thing, which is funny because work is 100% jiu-jitsu as well. But aside of those type of things, man, just like I like hanging out in my house. I'll like read a book from here to time, and like, I literally watch The Office like all the time when I'm not working and stuff. So for the most part, it's like you said, it's hard to find the difference between that work and like actual life. But I mean, jiu-jitsu was like my little therapy that I used to go be able to train 4 hours a day and forget about work, and then I come back, eat, and then just be refreshed and just like ready to put in like a good shift, because the news never really ends.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great thing about jiu-jitsu is people always kind of bring up like, now that jiu-jitsu has become your job, is it less fun? It's like, well, not really, because training isn't my job. I'm not like a high level competitive athlete, even though I'm putting on events and, doing social media and stuff like that. Just because I'm thinking about jiu-jitsu outside of training doesn't mean it gives me the same feeling as getting on the mat and rolling and stuff like that. So I don't think it's as confusing as some people, make it be, but it's definitely difficult when I'm at home to kind of separate myself from things that I want to be working on or just, leisure time and stuff like that. But it's something that I've kind of dealt with and figured out over the last few years. So interesting to see how you've dealt with it.
It's definitely been a evolving thing. I think what's really helped me out to have that personal life and then that work life, especially being at home all the time, it's I've given myself like such like a kind of like a high school bell schedule, you know, like from a certain time to a certain time, I'm only doing this. From a certain time to a certain time, I'm only doing this. Because sometimes I'll just involve myself in a project and I won't do anything else for like the whole 7 hours because I'm just wanting to finish this project.
Yep.
And then like other parts of what I'm trying to work on kind of fall because like then I don't get to put some time into that. So I think giving myself like a schedule that's like literally like from 9:30 to 12, I'm doing just this, and then from this because like if not, yeah, I would just be driving myself crazy.
Yeah, all over the place and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your, you know, I was going to kind of get into some of the events that you've covered. What has been one of the better events or the most exciting events that you've been able to cover live?
Man, hands down, like not even close. ADCC 2019 was the best thing that's ever happened in my entire life. Like that weekend was just amazing. From like waking up because it's in Anaheim, so it was a bit of a drive from where I'm at in Los Angeles. It was like almost an hour and a half drive every morning. So we were getting up like at 7 in the morning. Like me, my brother, I had a couple friends from New York visit who also got media passes, and we would literally just like wake up at 6, 7. Eat breakfast, make the drive, get there, you know, like set up. Pretty much the whole event was the whole day. So like they will start like at 9 or 10, and we would pretty much get out of there like at 7 to take that drive back home to just edit all night, go to sleep like at 2 in the morning, wake up, same thing for like those 3 days, and it was like so much fun, man. So much fun. All the storylines from that day. Watching the Absolute Division, like I would literally point my camera in one direction and then like hear the crowd roar, point my camera over there. Yeah. I missed it. Like the crowd's roaring behind me. I turned around. I missed. It was just like so much action. It was such a fun time.
Yeah, I remember that. Absolute was insane. I was just, you know, watching it on a laptop back here in Iowa, but I had like all 3 screens up at the same time and just trying to keep up with everything that was going on. It was insane. So I can't even imagine what that was like to cover that in person.
Just the energy in the building was like something like I have felt when I've gone to like a professional NBA game, or like it was that type of energy. It was like I've never felt that in an event before, and I've been to EBIs and I've been to you know, world championships, but like this was this felt like a professional sporting event with like fans who like are passionate. Like it's so hard to explain. You just have to like really be there.
Yeah, and I think that's what our sport needs, is like an atmosphere around events that feels like that. A lot of jiu-jitsu events you go to, it's like super quiet, nobody's really cheering, and there's not that much excitement in the room. You know, the music's not that great, and so I think those are all important components to putting together an exciting event that people outside of the sport are going to actually be entertained by and want to tune into, which is what we have to do in order to grow the sport. So.
Yeah, I mean, Mo did a phenomenal job, along with Seth Daniels from Fight to Win. Did a phenomenal job at putting together the event. And even when I heard that he was going to be in charge of the 2021 Vegas, I was excited because I know, well, he himself said it was the last one he's ever going to do. Mm-hmm. So I know he's going to go all out. This Vegas one is going to just completely blow this last one out of the water. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's going to be, I'm definitely going to have to make it out there for that one. I need to start organizing the trip now so that I'm ready for it. And,
yeah, man.
Yeah. So how much actual access did you have at ADCC? Like, where were you able to get in? Were you able to get like mat side for pictures and everything and video, or?
No, yeah, dude, the full thing. I was able to be nice. Backstage. I could see like where they were warming up. I had like a press pass that took me anywhere. And I think like the coolest part about the whole weekend was like when they got towards the finals and like it was just that one mat in the middle. Like photographers could line up on the side, like the 2 mats on the side. Like I was actually sitting on the mats, like with my camera, like watching the finals. So it's like absolutely the best seats in the house. Like no one in front of me, but like the athletes. It was like crazy. And then also like being like in the background, like just hanging out, like having Chipotle with like Gary Tonin, like in the back. Cause like they came and they brought Chipotle to like feed everybody and stuff. It was like a giant like buffet of like Chipotle and stuff. And like just being back there with these guys is like surreal. Like those like normal people, like just hanging out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's got to be like a dream come true for somebody who's trying to do media and stuff. Is that the first time you'd ever covered an ADCC event then?
That was the first time I've ever covered an ADCC event. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess the last one was in fucking.
It was in Finland, yeah, and it was crazy because that was the year that I started BJJ World, and I remember being in my bed at like it must have been like 2 or 3 in the morning, like covering this event on Instagram and like watching it on my little laptop under the covers so I didn't wake anybody up. And then here I am 2 years later and I'm like sitting on the mats. Like I look down and there's like blood on the mats and I'm like, dude, like I'm here. It's like insane.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nice, man. Anything that happened backstage or anything that didn't really make it out into the media that you'd like to tell us about, or nothing?
That didn't make it out to the media. I mean, not for the most part. Anything that I like video wise that I was able to grab like went out there. Even as like Flow did a phenomenal job at putting all the stuff that went out there. I think like they should have done like a like that backstage where like there was like a warm up mat and stuff. They should have put some cameras back there because there's so many cool stuff. Like there was a whole line of like Chipotle stuff for you to eat. Like people just hanging out, like media and athletes. Like Gary Tonis walking in the back with like he has like this American flag draped over him with a cowboy American hat on, and like it was just like I don't know, man. It was like it was such like a. It's like you see them like right before they're about to get on, and they're like hyped and like on, and then like backstage they're like a little bit more relaxed, like eating with their family and their friends, like they're hanging out. It was like that backstage. I feel like next year, like I'm gonna try to make it a thing to just be more backstage. Like I'm gonna have a bigger team so I could be backstage, and then I can have people like actually on the mats like taking stuff. But like the backstage part of things were pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to mention because that's a big thing that I focus on when I'm putting on events. Is like I have one cameraman that's just dedicated to like the backstage area and the warm up area, and we catch like a lot of really cool conversations. Like after two people have faced each other in the finals and they're just talking backstage about the match and stuff like that. We've caught like a lot of really good footage of stuff like that. So that's something I would like to see a lot more out of media companies. So I thought that was interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, I think it's an important aspect. Like we all get like I was saying, I like the stories of people and like where they're from. Like the whole like being back there, you get to see, like you said, the interesting conversations that don't happen. You see people who just competed talking about like the match, like whether it was close and they didn't agree, they'd be like, like. But for the most part, it was like all of us were in that building for jiu-jitsu, and it was like a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah. Be like jiu-jitsu's version of like, because UFC does that, like what is it, like the triumph and agony videos after each one. I think that'd be cool to see kind of like a jiu-jitsu version of that. Nicky Rod fucking blasting off backstage while Cyborg's pissed off and yelling or something like that, which there were some videos of that stuff, but I think it'd be cool to see a compilation of it all.
Yeah, man, I'm seeing Nicky in the sidelines like before a match was like the most intense thing ever. This guy was just, you could just look at him in the eyes. I'm like, this guy's literally trying to murder anybody who just steps in front of this guy. It's like but then you see him backstage and it's like all jokes and stuff. It was just so awesome to see like how fast these guys can turn it on and off. They've just been competing all their lives, and it's pretty interesting to watch. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we can kind of move on from that. That was a lot of good information in there. I'm glad we talked about ADCC and stuff. So I've kind of noticed that you were doing a little bit of stuff on the MMA side of things. You've always kind of covered like jiu-jitsu athletes on your BJJ World TV that are in MMA and stuff like that. But it looks like you actually have like a full-on MMA page now.
Yeah. So like after doing BJJ World for like a year with my brother, we're like, hey, let's do the same exact format, same exact thing, just for MMA news. And I mean, bigger audience, bigger platform, so it just naturally grows bigger, has bigger views. BJJ World forever is my passion project. Like this is what I'm doing. Like this is what I actually want to like do documentaries and do like big things with. The MMA channel is more like a news thing, and unless like we get to the point that we bring on a team, it'll just be that. For the most part, it's just news. Very simple dry cut. Like for BJJ World, like I'm trying to do more things like I did with Craig Jones, more like trips, more like behind the scenes, more like stories for the athletes and stuff. Just because again, jiu-jitsu is like the passion. Like, but the MMA channel is just there to like another source of income, another way to build a platform, and it's just like we already do it for jiu-jitsu. It's just so easy to just also do it for MMA. So I'm like always listening to interviews. Always like MMA. Like I've been watching the UFC for like 10+ years. So like. It was like a natural thing to do once the BJJ channel took off. Yeah,
and that's something even I've kind of thought about doing, is like promoting MMA and stuff here in Iowa, just because it is such a bigger platform. But I don't think I'm quite ready to do that. But I think it's good that you're branching out and doing things, especially if you can add more people to the crew and you can keep building this thing and turn it into something that does compete with something like Flow or some of the other bigger jiu-jitsu outlets. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean the goal is definitely to be able to build a combat sports like platform that like we could do all these things like MMA, jujitsu, even other martial arts like wrestling, judo and stuff like. Maybe not like channels, but like a giant like ESPN for combat sports. I think that's ultimately like where this whole thing will go in the future.
Yeah, and if you ever branch out into that wrestling world, I can help you out. That's all. Everything goes down in Iowa City pretty much. That's where they have like Olympic trials, and a lot of the best wrestlers come out of there.
The best wrestlers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you got people in Jersey too they'll argue that they're better than Iowa. Pennsylvania too.
But New Jersey, some big guys. Even I was just in Portland, and when I was training with these guys, the wrestling background there in Portland is huge. Some big wrestlers over there that are like doing big things.
Yeah. Shoot. Okay. I had something else written down. I don't know if I have any more questions for you, man. We packed a lot into that 25 minutes right there. Anything you want to plug or tell the people about before we get out of here? I won't take too much of your time since it's Memorial Day.
I mean, I had nothing going on besides just the working and stuff. Just looking forward to getting back out there once everything's lifted. I have me and Hector have a lot of plans as far as like Hector from Legwalker. We have a lot of plans as far as traveling and doing more seminar tours and behind the scenes stuff like we did with Craig. This last tour was really fun, and mid tour we came up with like a whole bunch of other trips, not only even the U.S. Like we're planning to go on to like Abu Dhabi and do like a tour in Abu Dhabi with some people that we've been talking with, and going to other countries across the globe. And man, just looking forward to once everything opens up to being able to do that and show you guys like the stories of athletes, not just like the fact that they're good at jiu-jitsu and they're world champions, but their life and how they grew up and like what makes them what they are. Because at the end of the day, like, there are a lot of guys with a huge ego who are where they are because they're good at jiu-jitsu, but majority of the guys are actually really good guys who are fun to hang out with. And once you hang out with them, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between having a beer with them or having a beer with one of your best friends. Cause it's like, it just, I don't know. It's like everybody that I've met so far has been very cool. And I kind of want to continue that momentum and just kind of show people how cool these guys are.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting out there and finding all the good people and all the different nooks and crannies of the country and the world is, I think, and bringing light to that is obviously a really positive thing that you're doing. So I enjoy it. While you were talking, I had one more question.
Dude, you go for it, man. I have nothing. My girlfriend's sleeping. I'm just hanging out.
I smoked too much weed. I fucking forgot.
Oh, man. But when are you going to be throwing the next event, man? I know you haven't done one. I mean, obviously we're closed down right now, but
so we friggin' it's kind of a bummer because this week was supposed to be fight week for our next event. The next one was supposed to be on May 30th and was by far going to be our biggest event. We finally found a venue that can kind of produce the show that we want to put on and everything like that. But obviously things are shut down right now. But our next date that we're looking at, because we had a follow-up event planned for July 18th. It was going to be a kids only event, but since this one got canceled, we'll move everything back. At least for right now, we're looking at July 18th for that next one, and then we'll see what the restrictions and things are like that if we have to push it back again. And obviously, it probably won't look exactly like what I had initially planned. I think maybe turnout's going to be a little bit lower just because people are a little leery of things and. We might have to, separate people in the crowd. Might not be able to pack as many people into the room as we had initially planned. But I still want to do something, even if it's just for the athletes here in Iowa. Just put something together to get people excited about something jiu-jitsu related again.
Yeah, man. I think you had the sub-spectrum momentum going, and it's a bummer that Corona came and I mean ruined it for all of us. Everybody's struggling through this time. But what do you think, like, when you get back, like? To what capacity do you think you'll be able to have a show like no audience at all, like maybe just local guys? Like,
yeah, I think at least the first one we do will probably be mostly local guys, maybe like branch out a little bit in the Midwest, people from like Minneapolis or Chicago, but for the most part probably keep people here in Iowa. I think because the restrictions are a lot more lenient here in Iowa than they are in a lot of other places. So I think we're going to be able to open up to kind of like bigger style events sooner than other states are going to be able to. So the thing I'm thinking right now is if we can sell it's like a 600 person auditorium. And as much as I'd love to sell all 600 seats, if we got to keep people separate, I think we could technically spread everybody out by 6 feet and make like 100 seats in there or something. Yeah. And then make it like a special price for everybody that gets in. That obviously we want to make it an exciting show and give them something to feel like they got something in return for supporting the event. But we'll just, kind of have to play it by ear and see. But, when this thing is all over, and I kind of put out something yesterday about it, and I was half joking, but as people started to pour into the comments and kind of like respond to me about it, I thought it is something that would actually be kind of a cool idea to create an event similar to like Woodstock was, where, there's like the word of mouth and people traveled from all over to this one, random remote location. And I think we kind of have that here in Iowa. If we can I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, like The Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we could throw like an event there where it's literally like surrounded by cornfields and it's like a festival, like, 3 or 4 day festival where you got 2 days of like lifestyle workshops and like jiu-jitsu workshops, and people can just kind of like meander around and find their ways to different open mats and different like instructors that are teaching, whether it's diet or jiu-jitsu or, mindset, meditation, things like that. And just creating like this giant event where people do want to come from all over the place and create kind of like a viral nature around it. I think viral, kind of a funny word to use right now. But I think that'd be something that's really cool, and a lot of people seem on board with the idea. So I kind of want to start venturing out and figuring out, what that would look like if we were to do something like that. And I think it would in order to pull it off, we'd have to get people like yourself involved.
Of course,
Ryan McGuire with Third Coast Grappling. Eddie Bravo, if we can get him on board, Josh LeDuc down in Florida, just all the different promoters from all the different areas of the country that can provide and come together for something really big. I think that'd be really, really cool. Obviously, there'd be a lot of work that went into it, but I think it's possible and something that we can look forward to for the future. And I'll definitely, you'll be one of the first people on my list if I start putting that together.
Dude, absolutely, man. Like you were saying earlier in the interview today, it's definitely better when all of us are able to like get together and do stuff, as opposed to like being so like, oh, this is mine. Like the jiu-jitsu, the beautiful thing is that the sport is so new that like there's a space for everybody in the field to do like hatch their little mark in the game, and something like this like that's the beautiful thing about the sport. So new, so open, that I feel like if you get the right people to like want to come in together, like there's no way it can't be successful. You can definitely do it.
Yeah. So I guess the one question I was going to have for you, it's a personal question, but also for people that are listening. Obviously, you do a really good job with social media and creating viral nature around your content. And obviously you're super consistent and passionate about this. You're covering so many events and things like that. What is a tip that you could give to somebody who's maybe struggling with their social media, looking for a way to kind of put more eyes on their product and create that viral nature around their content? What's one of the ways that you think that they could improve their process in order to do that?
So I told one of these athletes that I'm trying to start like managing in the future, who also has like social media is not his thing. He's just like, I don't like posting, I don't like that thing. I would say like find the way to make it so it's fun for you. Like for example, like he wanted to make posts, but like he wouldn't be comfortable with the caption. So like he's like a perfectionist. So like just because he will spend hours trying to think of a caption and then not think of something and then not post something, and then like it'll be days before he posts something. Like get into the habit of posting just because you like to post it. Like don't worry so much about like the likes and the engagement. Like that's gonna come. Like that's gonna come once you build like your brand, and like every audience is so specific. Like my audience is so different than Flo's Grappling's audience in a way. Like we all do jiu-jitsu, but like everybody's audience is unique. So like keep experimenting, keep posting things until like you figure out like what's yours. Like if you look at, well, not this Instagram because mine's not gotten deleted, but like our first posts were really ugly. Even our first YouTube videos were really ugly and hideous. And like right now, I think where I'm at is awesome, but I'm sure 5 years from now, I'll look back at this specific moment and be like, man, my posts were ugly. You just kind of always evolving, always figuring out what works. Like you said, staying consistent is like a big key. Even if like, you're getting 10 likes on your photo or like 100 likes or thousands of likes on your photo, like that's going to come, but don't be fueled by like the engagement and the likes and all that stuff. Be fueled by the fact that you like this stuff and you want to post it because you know this picture means a lot to you, or this specific piece of content means a lot to you. Yeah, man. Eventually, the numbers come, and sorry. What the hell? eventually the numbers come, and that just comes when you're having fun and not really worrying about like what everybody has to say. Like I'll post something about Dylan Dennis, and people get mad. I'm like, dude, I could care less about Dylan Dennis, but it's news, so I'll post it, and it gets a ton of engagement. Tons of like, for me, is like post whatever is true to your brand and your content, and you're gonna make your audience happy, and that eventually will grow onto the platform that you're trying to grow.
Nice. I think that's like a really good point. It's just like the consistency that's so huge, and again, not worrying about like whether the likes or engagement are high, because if you put out a really, really good piece of content and only 30 people see it, it's still 30 people. Still 30 people saw that, and those 30 people are going to be like, "Damn, that was a really good piece of content," and they're going to think higher of you, for your future posts, and be on the lookout for things like that. So that's a big thing that I tell people too.
You watch a lot Gary Vee, right? Because I think I've seen you share a lot of Gary Vee stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was actually just right before this. I was on Instagram Live. It was like 11:45, and I had sent a request to try to get in on his live stream.
Yeah.
And it went to go connect, and it wouldn't connect. And then he's like, "Okay, well, we're just going to shut it down for the day." So I was like, I'm about to have to send Freddie a message and be like, "Sorry, I'm talking to Gary Vee. More important than you." No, I'm just kidding.
I listened to a lot of his stuff. I mean, honestly, if you would have, I've been like, dude, go for it. That's fucking sick. Because I myself, I mean, I don't listen to it like every day. Sometimes it becomes like too much for me. I'm like, okay, I need to chop up. When I feel like the lag, I'll listen to him just to get like that little push. But he says it, he's like, don't focus so much on the piece of content being fucking perfect. Like even if you screenshot, if you're not home and you can't Photoshop something like you would like, just take a screenshot of the Twitter and just post it. It's like the same exact thing. And then, it's just people are still going to appreciate it, so like not so worried about making it so pretty and making sure it's like it hits every checkbox in like in your brain for it to be like perfect. Like, dude, post it because you like it. Post it because it's relevant and you're staying consistent. And I think that's ultimately like what's most important when you're trying to grow. And don't get caught into the like whole like, oh, it like this didn't get as many likes as this. I mean, that doesn't really matter. Like you said, at the end of the day, 30 people saw it. That's better than 0 people seeing it.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just the way that Instagram, messes with posts. Like anytime I do anything for the podcast, I swear it like knows if the Jordan Jitsu doesn't work. Like I've tried messing around with captions, everything. Yeah. If it's anything about my podcast, it's going to get like 20 likes. But anything else might be hundreds. So it's like you just got to keep putting it out there. Eventually, people are going to listen to the podcast, and then they're going to be sharing it, and then it won't matter what the hell Instagram thinks about my content.
They'll do stuff like that. They'll do stuff anytime you try to direct somebody to something else, like that's not Instagram, like whether it be the way you write it, like you said, like sometimes like even when I write, like I'm selling like a new shirt design, and like if I'm like, yo, link in bio, anytime I write, I think like you write link in bio, and then algorithms like, okay, like this post can't go on the explore page, this post can't like be seen by majority of the people. I mean, there's little hacks and stuff that you can do with social media to like get more eyes on your stuff. Like, stories, like if anything you post on your story is more likely to get seen by more people than people who actually see your actual feed, your post feed. So like, it's a little different ways you could hack the system a little bit more. But yeah, you're right. Like once, anything you post that's not like that you're driving them somewhere else, Instagram kind of is like, no, we need you guys to stay here. So they'll kind of hunker down on
they're like, let's show this to 7 people in Indonesia who don't give a fuck about your podcast.
It's interesting how all that stuff works. And it's always changing. Like it's algorithm when I started, it was a lot different than the algorithm now. And it's not like, it's like not something that you can see online. Like, it's like, oh, they'll tell you like, it's something that you realize like, oh, this used to work and now this doesn't work. Yep. That means like they switched the shit up,
And that's a big part of the consistency too, is just like understanding the trends and the hacks and things like that. And in order to do that, you can't just read an article that tells you, just do this, do that. No, you got to be in the, in the trenches, just doing it over and over again, making realizations.
And listening to guys like Gary and other guys like that definitely helps at staying on top of the things when you can't always read every article, or you can't always like test like posts and stuff. Like, listen to guys like that and seeing what works for them. For me, that's like a big thing in my life. Everything I've done, like I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to grab pieces of different things that work and make it mine. And then, see what work. Like once I make it mine, see what different things I could do to that itself so it can like work, So like I have a lot of inspiration from ESPN, like Instagram. So I'll look at what ESPN's doing on Instagram. I'm like, yo, they're posting 8 times a day. I'm going to post 8 times a day. Like I'm trying to mimic what they're doing, but also keep it very personal, not personal, but like unique to like my brand, and grow it that way. You know, like you don't need to go ahead and reinvent the wheel. You just need to see what works and make it better for you. You know, like and I think that's like something that could help people out, and when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah. So people, think of your social media like your jiu-jitsu.
Always changing, and
you don't have to do all the fancy shit that Craig Jones does. Take from him, you know, what works for you, and then implement it into your game, and do what works for you. Don't just try to emulate, you know, everybody else.
No.
So
even like me watching, like when I was there into watching everything he did, like I'll be like, yo, it will take me years for me to be able to implement everything he just told me.
Yeah.
But you could take that one or two things that he told you, and it'll help your game drastically. But for you to get to that level, you got to learn the 8-9 things down the line that, you know, that he's the level he's on. Like he's on like a different wavelength. So just definitely get those one or two things. And that's like when you watch an instructional, you can't take all of that information in. You grab one or two things from the instructional and you run with that for a while until like it gets figured out, and then you make it better, or maybe you get bored and you find a new thing. But you gotta take the bits and pieces of the stuff.
Yeah, and dealing in concepts, I find both, you know, in social media and jiu-jitsu, just like bigger overlying ideas that you can apply to a bunch of different situations rather than, you know, detailed explanations for each individual thing. I think that helps people kind of map out a plan for things and not be so concerned about every little thing.
Yeah, I think the way Instagram makes it look like that, like the engagement, the numbers are so important. Definitely, you know, turn people away from trying to pursue some type of things, but everything changed. I mean, luckily I started a thing that was in a field that was fairly new. Jiu-Jitsu still is fairly new, but I'm sure if I started BJJ World today as opposed to the 4 years ago that I started it would be so much tougher to start it now. You know, just because there's so many more players in the game, there's so many, you know, every day I see like a new Jiu-Jitsu outlet, which is great. You know, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you know, Jiu-Jitsu Times, what they do is great. Flow, what they do is great. You know, all the other up and coming, the grappling rewind, all these guys are awesome. I think, like I was telling you earlier, this isn't a thing that, oh, like it has to be mine, I have to protect it. It's like this is big enough for all of us to find their own like way and to like be successful in that way. You know, so.
Yeah, and put their own spin on it, because it's like none of those other guys are doing the same thing that you're doing, and you're not doing the same thing that they're doing. So it's important for you guys to all be players in that game, and you know, put your little spin on it.
Yeah, absolutely, and help each other, bring each other up. You know, like I think I see a lot of they're like a meme page, so I can't associate. I'm a meme page. I'm like, dude, you guys, like you said, it's impossible for you guys to do the absolute same thing. Like you do your thing, and they're doing their thing, and then me and Jiu-Jitsu Times both do news, but hey, they're the Jiu-Jitsu Times, and I'm BJJ World TV, and like. You know, like their fans could get something out of what we do, and our fans could get something out of what they do, you know, and it's like, that's like the best way to bring the most eyes to the sport.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be like the next big wave for jiu-jitsu is more like collaborations. I mean, you look at any high level, you know, entertainment business, anything like that, they're collaborating. The fucking, I can't think of a good example. I was going to say something about like Kardashians, but you know, I was trying to give an example, but you know,
I know what you mean, but it's definitely the way. It's definitely the way, you know, because you know, if you stay so tight and you're so closed off, you know, you don't leave that window open for like new people to come in and a new different types of audience. You know, when you collab with somebody, you know, they could be doing a completely different thing. Like I've collabed with like some artists who have done a design for me, and like I got some new fans that maybe didn't do jiu-jitsu, or maybe did do jiu-jitsu but weren't so into the news, and vice versa. Maybe the artist got like some people who weren't like didn't follow this artist before, and now they're into their art, you know. So it's like it's definitely the way for both of you guys to grow together, and you know, bring different types of audiences together. I mean, like Floyd Mayweather and Conor, like that makes the world into together. Like Gordon Ryan and Bo Nickel, you know, like that brought in two different worlds together. You know, I think like that's definitely the future of like. Or not necessarily in the future, but like the way to get the sport to grow faster.
Yeah, and that's a big thing I'm working on right now. I'm trying to incorporate. I don't necessarily want to do like the jiu-jitsu versus wrestler matches, but I would like to put on some like high. You know, we've got so many good wrestlers here in Iowa. I would love to put on like, you know, in the intermissions, or even just do a whole section of the card where it's like freestyle wrestling matches. And I'm kind of changing up the rules too, so that like if there's a stalling situation, they go into like a wrestling position, referee's position, as like a penalty for the stalling. And that's going to, more wrestlers see that, they're going to be like, oh, I know how to attack from that position. They see a high level jiu-jitsu black belt attack, a rear naked choke from the referee's position or something. That's something they're super familiar with, and they might be more interested in getting into the sport. And that's a giant, like a demographic or a market.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Wrestling's
humongous, man. Like, I watched the NCAA, and it's like the NCAA finals, and I'm like, dude, they're selling out like these arenas. I'm like, the jiu-jitsu could possibly be that. It's just definitely working together and being open to growing. I think the companies are doing a good job at like, putting more content out, like on free platforms and stuff, just so people could see it. Like, I understand everything has to be behind a paywall to make some money, but ultimately, like, the stuff that you put out there for free on these, I mean, we're in a time where like this is the time, like we have the internet, and especially right now during quarantine, like this evolved jiu-jitsu immensely in these last 3 months. Like we've done things that we wouldn't have been doing for like another 20 years, like virtual seminar tours and Zoom classes, and like that's something that would have happened maybe 20 years from now. We had to do it now to like adapt, to keep going, so the game's always evolving, always changing, and it's a really pretty thing to see.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's a good point to wrap it up on. I'll go ahead and let you go. Let you get back to your Memorial Day festivities. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really enjoyed it. And if we ever get a chance to have you on again, we'll definitely have you on here. So
thank you, Jordan, bro. Whenever you want, man. I'm literally here hanging out all the time. So whenever you want me on here to shoot the shit with you, I'm always up for it, brother.
Awesome, man. Looking forward to it. All right, man. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and take it easy.
All right, bro. Take it easy, my man.
Later, man.
Peace.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was Freddy Predique. I probably am saying that wrong. From BJJ World TV. So check them out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. They got a YouTube channel with a lot of subscribers, and they put out a lot of really good videos and content on there, in addition to all their social media platforms. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.